Welcome, everybody, to the Rabbi's Message. This is Rabbi Elazar Bogomilsky. Hopefully, this message today will be strong and understanding of what this week's Torah portion, Parshat Balak, has a message for all of us today. Are Jews difficult? On the ultimate meaning of Jewish existence. It is fascinating that some of the most splendid prose in the Hebrew world emerged from the mouth of the prophet Balaam, a prophet and an archenemy of the Jewish people, who, summoned by the Moabite king to curse Israel, ends up delivering the most poignant and poetry ever uttered in the history of the destiny of the unique singular people. It says in this week's Torah portion, Numbers chapter 24, "From the top of mountains I see him, from the hills I behold him. It is a people that dwells alone, and it is not reckoned amongst the nations." Another classical statement in this week's Torah portion. "How godly are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling of Israel. As winding brooks, as gardens by the riverside, as aloes which God has planted, as cedars beside the waters. He, the Jew, crouches and lies like a lion, like a lioness who will dare rouse him. Blesses he that blesses you, and curses he that curses you." These are the statements. What is more, the most explicit reference in the 5 books of Moses in relationship to the Messiah, to Mashiach, the Jewish leader who will bring about the full and ultimate redemption, when heaven and earth will kiss and humanity will become truly one. It is to be found in this week's Torah portion in what the prophet Balaam tells us. "I see it, but not now. I behold it, but is not near. A star shall come forth from Jacob, and a scepter shall rise upon Israel." This is very strange. The identity, the nature of calling of the Jewish people is naturally discussed abundantly throughout the Bible. Yet the fact remains that the most acute and potent and parts of the Torah, tuned to appreciate the Jewish identity, is communicated through the mouth of a non-Jew prophet who basically was an arch enemy to Israel, and he attempted to destroy it. The obvious question is why? Why would we have such poetic writing and poetic discussion and profound lessons that we learn so many positive and important virtues of the Jewish people? Why would we learn this from the mouth of seemingly an archenemy of the Jewish people? This is, again, this week's Torah portion. The message, I believe, is quite clear. The Torah is teaching us that if you wish to understand who the Jew is, you must seek the perspective of the non-Jew, the non-Jewish individual who is basically unbiased and unaffected by the Jewish complex. This individual has the ability to teach us and bring the appreciation of the Jew that many Jews themselves don't understand. The non-Jewish world does not fall prey to the popular Jewish claim that we are merely a normal secular people, a cultural ethnic group who enjoys love, money, food, leisure as much as any other Gentile out there in the world. Consciously or subconsciously, the Gentile senses and something that very profound and authentic sets the Jew apart from the rest of the human race. Although he or she may not be able to put this in her own finger on this idea, or what exactly this means, the non-Jew feels that Israel is a people that dwell alone and is not reckoned amongst the nations. A peculiar people. Eric Hoffer, an American social philosopher, author of the classic The True Believer, and recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, expressed Balaam's sentiments in the Los Angeles articles decades ago. It is tragically clear that almost nothing changed since Mr. Hoffer wrote these words in May of 1968. And this is what he says. The Jews are a peculiar people. Things permitted to other nations are forbidden to the Jews. Other nations drive out thousands, even millions of people, and there's no refugee problem. Russia did it, Poland, Czechoslovakia did it, Turkey threw out millions of Greeks. Algeria, 1 million Frenchmen. Indonesia threw out a heavens knows how many Chinese. And no one says a word about refugee. But in the case of Israel, the displaced Arabs have become eternal refugees. Everyone insists that Israel must take back every single Arab. Arnold Toynbee says as follows, calls the displacement of the Arabs greater than any type of sadness that was done in the time of the Nazis. Other nations, when victorious of the battlefield, dictate peace terms, but when Israel is victorious, it must sue for peace. Everyone expects that the Jew to be the only real Christians in the world. Other nations, when they are defeated, survive and recover. But should Israel be defeated, it would be destroyed. Had Nasser triumphed last June, he would have wiped Israel off the map, and no one would have lifted a finger to basically save the Jew. No commitment in the Jews by any government, including our own, is worth the paper to be written on. There's a cry of outrage all over the world when people die in Vietnam or in other places of the world. But when Hitler slaughtered Jews, no one said a word. These are all statements from him. The Swedes, who are ready to break diplomatic relationships in America because of what they have done in Vietnam, did not let out a peep when Hitler was slaughtering Jews. They sent Hitler choices, iron ore, and ball bearings, and served him troops trained to Norway. The Jews are alone in the world. It's Israel survives. It will be solely because of Jewish efforts. These are all the words of Eric Hoffer, again, an American social philosopher. Yet, at the moment, Israel is our only reliable and unconditional ally. We can rely more on Israel than Israel can rely on us. And one has only to imagine that what the world has happened last summer. And the Arabs and the Russians beckon one to realize how vital the survival of Israel and America is in the West in general. You know, what's interesting is, when you read these words of Eric Hoffer, we have to understand that 3 non-Jewish perspectives I'm going to share with you now. The uniqueness of the Jewish perceived by the non-Jewish world is expressed in the positive sense as well. In this, the meaning of history, Nicholas Berdayev wrote the following about the meaning of the Jewish history. And this is what he says, I quote, "I remember how the materialists and the interpretations of history, when attempted by the youth to verify to apply the destinies of the Jews, broke down the case of the Jews, where the destiny seemed absolutely unacceptable from the materialistic standpoint. And indeed, according to the materialistic and positiveness of this, the people ought long ago to have perished. And how about the splendorous world of the great Russian novelist? His name was Leon Nikolaevich Tolstoy, known as, who wrote in 1908 about the Jewish people. The Jews is that sacred being who has brought down the heaven, the everlasting fire, and has illuminated with the entire world. He is the religious source, spring and fountains at which the rest of the people have drawn their beliefs and their religion. The Jews is the emblem of eternity. He, who neither slaughters nor tortures the thousands of years could destroy. He who neither fire nor sword was able to wipe out the face of the earth. He who was the first to produce the oracles of God. He who has been so long to garner the prophecy and the transmitter of the rest of the world. Such a nation cannot be destroyed. The Jew is everlasting in eternity itself. And here is a passage from a more contemporary historian known as Paul Johnson. All the great conceptual discoveries of the intellect seem obvious once they have been revealed, but it is required to a special genius to formulate them the first time. The Jews have this gift. To them, we owe the idea of equally between the law, both divine and human, and the sanctity of life and the dignity of the human person, or the individual consciousness of the person's redemption, and the collective consciousness and the social responsibility. A piece, abstracted idea of love as the foundation of justice, as many other items which constitute the basic moral furniture of human mind. Without the Jew, it might have been a much emptier place. And of course, the moral words of the 19th century American president John Adams. I will insist that the Hebrews have done more to civilize men than any other nation. If I were an atheist who believed or pretended to believe that all is ordered by chance, I should believe that chance has ordered the Jews to preserve and propagate for all mankind the doctrine of a supreme, intelligent, wise, almighty, sovereign in the universe, which I believe to be the great essential principle of all morality, and consequently of all civilization. So we see from here, basically, a long list of people that had very positive things to say about the Jew. So back to the original question. Why is it that in this week's Torah portion, Bilam, the very famous prophet, was hired by the king Balak to curse the Jewish people, and every single mountain he climbed, and every time he gazed upon the Jewish people, the only words that came out of his mouth were words of praise. To the point that these words are the words that our rabbis live and they cherish, that each one of his words, seemingly this person that was a total anti-Semite, if you want to use that term, a Jew hater, he waited for that moment, for that chance, when can I actually curse the Jewish people? It's his words that till this day echoes upon the Jewish nation. Why is it? Why would God make such a statement that the non-Jew, not just the regular non-Jew, but a non-Jew that has issues with the Jew, why is it that those are the statements that we find in today's generation, that when we look back, we say the famous Hebrew classical sentence, Ma tovu ahalecha Yaakov, mishkenosecha Yisrael, which translates, how wonderful are the houses of Jacob, the tents of Israel. These are one of the classical statements. In a Rosh Hashanah sermon at Temple Israel in Massachusetts, the best-selling author Rabbi Harold Kushner made a candid confession. This past year of endless terrorism and anti-Semitism has compelled me to come to a conclusion I didn't want to come to. For all my years as a rabbi, I believe that I have taught the Jews, I have thought that the Jews were no different from any other people, that Judaism was different from Christianity and Islam. But Jews had the same feelings, the same strength and weaknesses, the same fears and dreams that Christians and Muslims have. I took issue with all the different rabbis who argued that Jewish souls are essentially different than Gentile souls. I opposed and I discouraged interfaith marriage, not because I believed that Jews were better than non-Jews, but because a family with two religions was likely to raise children with no religion to avoid arguments. But this year has persuaded me that the Jews are in fact different. I find myself compelled to face the fact that the Jew plays the role for the world that is used to play for this moment. You read about how the miners would take canaries with them into the mines because the canaries were extremely sensitive to dangerous gases. They responded to danger before the humans did. So if the miners saw that the canaries got sick and passed out, they knew that their ear was bad and they would have to escape fast as they could. That is what the Jews do for the world. We are the world's early warning system. Where there is evil, where there is hatred, it affects us first. If there's a hatred anywhere in the world, it will find us. If there is evil somewhere in the world, we will become its target. People overflowing with hatred for whatever reason, including self-hatred, make us the object of their hatred. This is the role we play in the world, not by choice, but it's imposed upon us by others, to be the miners of the canary, to smoke out the bigots, the hatreds, and all those people that have utterly hate us for no reason. The people who will become the communities if someone doesn't stop them, and they will become their leaders. And we identify them early on by their hatred of us. Hitler basically attacked the Jews before he attacked Western civilization, and that should have altered the world to what kind of person he was. But the world misread the signals. Muslim fantasized, practiced their terrorist skills on Israelis before turning those skills into the rest of the world. But the world never understood this warning. You know, what's interesting is our job is to live as Jews. We're summoned to live because we cannot escape the fate of being a Jew. Generations before us have tried to fail, but we can claim the destiny of being a Jew, because when we do that, we discover how satisfying and truly human life can be. We're going to take a short break now, and we're going to continue more with what Rabbi Kushner has explained his revelation of what the Jewish people are. You're listening to the Rabbi's Message.
Join the Friendship Circle, a project of the High Center of Greater Seattle. That's a nonprofit organization. The Friendship Circle is made up of 5 parts: volunteers, children, parents, staff, and supporters. The true beauty of the circle is how we all link together to form a seamless circle of friendship. Through our Friends at Home program, we match teens with special needs children for the mutual benefit of both. The teens pay a weekly visit to the home of a special child where they offer friendship, recreational interaction, arts and crafts, homework support, life skill enhancement, and more. It bolsters brotherhood and promotes volunteerism by youth as well as adults. If you know a teen that would like to volunteer, please give us a call at 206-525-5011 or visit us on the web at friendshipcirclewa.com and learn more about how you can participate. The Friendship Circle and you. Together, we can perform miracles.
Welcome back to the Rabbi's Message. We're in the middle of a discussion discussing Bilam, the great prophet who basically was a Jewish hater and not a very close friend of the Jews. But when he was hired to curse the Jewish people, only words of blessing, until the point that he said, I'm only can reply and I can only deliver the words that God puts in my mouth. But the question we still have on the table is that if this is a person that clearly was not a Jew lover, why is it that till this very day, the one that we quote, primarily we derive the whole message of the deliverance of Mashiach, of Messiah, and all the other ideas of understanding the uniqueness of the Jew, we learn from the words, the poetry of this great prophet Bilam. Why? Why would we use his words? And I'm going to continue with the words of Rabbi Kushner when he said in his story and explained in his sermon, why is it that the Jew stands apart? Rabbi Kushner did not explain why the Jews were canaries in the world, but exactly placed the Jewish people into the position. This was a well articulated by Professor Eliezer Berkowitz in his powerful book known as Faith After the Holocaust. And this is what he says: the fear that so many different civilizations have to have of the Jews, the suspicion with which they met, the utterly irrational, yet it has justification. It is utterly irrational because it has no basis in the behavior of the Jew or its character. It is a form of international madness when it is founded on behalf of the Jewish power, and Jewish intention to hurt, to harm, or to rule. Yet it has justification as metaphysical fear of the staying power of the Jewish powerlessness. The very existence of the Jewish people is suggestive of another dimension of reality and meaning to which the main purpose of man, the power history, are adjusted, fulfilled, and meant alone, and set and explained in the sense of, as long as the Jew is around, he is a witness that God is around. He is the witness whether he knows it or not, whether he is consciously testified and refuses to testify. His very existence, his survival, his impact, testifies that God is existence. That is what it is all about. That is the present. Bears witness to God's presence in the history. There lies the origin and the satanic idea of the final solution. If the witness were destroyed, God himself would be dead. These are the words of Professor Eliezer Berkowitz. Embracing ourselves. Many of our beloved brothers and sisters, young and old, American, progressive, and open-minded Jews, raised in the spirit of egalitarianism and equality, have for a long time attempted to suppress this historical truth. We have tried hard to convince ourselves and our children that when push comes to shove, we have indeed equals with the nations on the earth. At the end of the day, we will seem to be part of a collective family of the human race. Anti-Semitism, we told ourselves, was a relic in the past, existence in the backward countries, not permeated within the spirit of liberty. Yet, what we see is that anti-Semitism resurrected during the past 3 years across the world, and is absolutely irrational obsession to demise Israel. Is being to be open to, it has been a tremendous eye-opener to many. If you open almost any newspaper in the world, or watch any television news station, internationally, you can hear the message articulated 3,300 years ago by the sophisticated and spiritual non-Jew. It is a people that dwell alone, and it is not reckoned amongst the nations. That is the message of this week's Torah portion. This is not a curse, it is a reality. If we wish to survive and thrive, we must embrace the truth, acknowledged long ago by our fellow non-Jews inhabitants of this planet. The world will only appreciate Jews when we will possess the courage to appreciate and love ourselves. The world is embraced, and the world is also embarrassed with Israel, that is embarrassed with its 4,000-year faith and tradition, that the Holy Land is a God gift to the Jewish people. Only when we will acknowledge our aloneness, we will become a true source of blessing to all humanity. The message is clear. When a person realizes who we are, and when a person begins to realize the power that has been given to you, and the message from this Torah portion is so profound, because constantly Jews are trying to realize, how do we mesh? How do we fit into society? Not realizing is that our friends and our neighbors and the people that truly love us want us to be strong in our faith. They want us to understand the uniqueness of what it means to have your heritage. And you know what happens? Something so profound. The minute that you stand and you are proud of your belief system, the minute you stand strong and you share with someone, this is my faith, this is my country, this is my idealism, these are my moral acts, this is my moral definition of how I live my life. This is the cognitive and the phenomenal approach that I take every single day to my lesson of life. When you stand strong with a belief system, within a framework of guidance, of a blueprint known as the Torah, known as the Bible, when you have that strong backdrop, then you are able to stand, and people around you from all different faiths, automatically have tremendous respect. And automatically people say, wait a second, I might not agree or I might not understand, or it might be something that I'm not even there in my lifetime. But one thing is, I will respect that person because the person truly believes. And that's the power of this week's Torah portion, with the blessing of what Bilham blessed the Jewish nation. That every single Jew should stand alone, in the sense of stand alone with your belief system. Don't be concerned if people understand, if they don't understand. Ultimately, people like faith. People like people that are connected. I want to wish you all a great week and Shabbat Shalom to all. You're listening to the Rabbi's Message.